Hello, everyone. Here's your weather hazard briefing for Tuesday, March 5th. We do have a cold and snowy pattern continuing through Thursday morning. The best chance is going to be through tonight with this next round coming through. Otherwise, besides the snow, we've got another round of wind coming, so a lot of blowing snow expected, and this is likely going to happen even where places it's not snowing at the time or hasn't started snowing yet. It's going to be kind of a messy system, even with just the wind across the area. Now, it is going to be drier and warming up a bit as we head into the weekend. High pressure overhead Friday into Saturday, but just as quickly as we get this break, we return to a more active pattern by the time we get to Sunday and especially Monday and Tuesday. Satellite shows a pretty good shot coming off the Pacific. We've got moisture falling. We've already got some snow moving in through western Idaho early this morning. That'll continue to spread across the region during the day. A little bit of higher cloud and stratus deck up across the far upper end of the Snake Plain into portions of the eastern highlands. So looking at our weather risk outlook, you can see many areas seeing that blowing, drifting snow with the wind. Some of the bigger impacts, especially in places and at times through this evening across the Snake Plain and Magic Valley. There might be a brief window, especially from Pocatello westward and also south towards Oakley, where it might just try to mix just a tiny bit, but we're expecting mostly snow in our forecast with this round. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty breezy, pretty snowy day over the eastern highlands. We've already seen road closures in the past 24 hours over the eastern part of our area, and this is where, if it's not snowing, and in some places it's not snowing early this morning, the wind is causing quite a bit of blowing and drifting and road closures, or the potential road closures, coming in ahead of the ban. Now, going into tomorrow morning, especially the first half of the day, we start to see the impacts dwindling, but they will continue, especially from the Snake Plain east and Snake Plain south for tomorrow, and just a little bit of light snow lingering early Thursday before we get that brief break. And just the ever slightest chance of snow moving in very, very late on Saturday over the central mountains, but this is, again, most likely going to hold off until we get to Sunday over the area. So looking how things go today, we'll be noticing that band shifting quickly this morning to the east over the area. You'll notice along the southern end and eastern end of the Snake Plain, Idaho Falls, Pocatello, down towards Burley, not a lot of moisture expected to fall. That's because the winds pick up and we get those gap winds, downslope winds going. But you'll see that moisture continuing to spread east during the day. We also see the shadowing up over the Arco Desert, also some shadowing down south of the Snake Plain in some of those lowest elevations. We go through the rest of the day into this evening. You can start to see things shifting southward or ending from north to south up across Lemhi County. This trend continues overnight. We'll go through the period, and sometime late this evening, early tomorrow morning, that band basically will be setting up from around Driggs down through Pocatello over to Twin Falls and even over into the southwest corner of the state, and it will continue shifting southward ever so slowly by the time we get into about 24 hours from now, early Wednesday morning, and then kind of just a little bit of maybe light snow hanging around during the day on Wednesday, even pushing back, coming in from the south and west as we go into the afternoon, late afternoon hours across our area. So headed back to a little bit more of our forecast in terms of wind and snow. You can see a pretty good push of snow this morning, continuing in through the rest of the morning over the central mountains, the lava beds over towards craters. Otherwise, some upslope into the Island Park area, but you see generally along the 84, 86, 15 corridor, a little bit downslope, not much precipitation in terms of snow expected. A little bit over the southern and eastern highlands for sure, but the bulk of it this morning will be over into the central mountains. Some pretty gusty winds up in the higher elevations through at least this morning over the central mountains. Some of those gusts over 40 miles per hour. and you can see where we start to see the downslope, the gap wind impact from Twin all the way up through Idaho Falls and even over towards the Teton Valley. We're already seeing gusts in those areas 30 to 40. That will continue. The gusts elsewhere, heading back to the south and west, will pick up through the morning, and some of those gusts will be in excess of 40 miles per hour. And even though we had a lot of wet snow over the weekend, we've had some dry, fluffy snow on top of it. That's really what's going to be the issue with the blowing snow, is what the light snow that has fallen since our bigger event going into Saturday. Going into this afternoon, those winds do continue. We start to see them dwindling a little bit over the Central Mountains, but they pick up across the Snake Plain, and they maintain status quo basically. South and east is the Snake Plain. Some of those gusts 35 to 45 miles per hour. You'll notice some pockets of heavier snow continuing over the Central Mountains. Just light snow over the Snake Plain, light to moderate snow over the southeast corner, and again, a better chance to snow this afternoon headed in the big holes up towards Ashton Hill, and obviously if you head over Teton Pass into the Tetons of Wyoming for this afternoon. Temperature-wise, there's the reason we're going to may sneak briefly with a little bit of rain. We're seeing some a little bit warmer temperatures this afternoon from Pocatello westward, also down towards Malta and Oakley. Otherwise, near to below freezing across the rest of central and eastern Idaho for today. Now, we'll take it through the rest of this evening as we get on the back end of that. Some pretty good snows continuing in the big holes, Ashton Hill over in Yellowstone and the Tetons as well. Just a smattering of light to moderate snow elsewhere. A little bit of continued snow activity, mainly likely some embedded showers late this afternoon, early evening, potentially over the Central Mountains as well. Those wind gusts do continue, especially once you get into the Snake Plain, into the eastern highlands, and also the higher elevations down south. Pretty much the wind is over. A few lingering gusts over 25 miles per hour up in the Central Mountains this evening, but still some gusts over 40 once you get into the Snake Plain over into the eastern highlands, continuing that threat of blowing and drifting snow in much of that part of our forecast area. Overnight, the winds continue. They do die down, but they're still gusty. They're not completely over. And as you can see, just some light snow outside of the southeast highlands, where we could see some areas looking at 3 to 6 additional inches of snow, and especially into the big holes, up into the Tetons, heading over Teton Pass, also heading over Immigration Summit there down across the Bear River Range as well. That's for the overnight hours. And for tomorrow, snow's pretty much light. We continue, like I said, with that band moving south and east tomorrow. Winds along that shift, they do weaken, but they're still around 20 to 30 miles per hour. A few gusts over 30 miles per hour in some of the higher elevations. That's during the whole day tomorrow. That's the snowfall for that 12-hour period and the maximum amount of winds during the morning and afternoon hours tomorrow. And temperatures, we start out fairly warm with that band and wind over along the interstate corridor. Ahead of it as well, some of the lower valleys near 30 degrees. Otherwise, behind it, single digits and teens and even some below zero temperatures for tomorrow morning. For tomorrow afternoon, we will continue to potentially try to push just a bit above freezing briefly in the afternoon over the Snake Plain, especially off to the south and on the south and east side of the Snake Plain and on down towards the Utah border, where some temperatures may briefly try to get closer to 40 degrees. Otherwise, temperatures near or below freezing across the rest of our area for tomorrow. That's lows and highs for tomorrow. And looking at tomorrow evening, the very kind of end of things, not a lot of snow going on, just a few snow showers over the southern and eastern highlands. That might end up actually a little farther north, lying from Burley to Pocatello as well. So going into Thursday, those temperatures, we back them off a little bit, so it'll be a few degrees cooler across the board heading into Thursday, into Friday, even cooler in the morning, cooler in the afternoon, just kind of, you start cooler, you don't warm up as much, so you kind of basically a little bit cooler across the board when you compare it to Thursday. And then we get to Saturday. We cool it off in the morning, but then with the high pressure overhead, We should see some mixing in the afternoon, hopefully, to get us back up to near 40 in a few locations as well. So once again, cold and snowy pattern through Thursday morning, but the bulk of it coming this afternoon, or today, into this evening and overnight. That'll eventually end from north to south tomorrow morning. And I think the biggest thing, even with lower snow amounts in some areas, it's going to be the winds, some pretty gusty winds. And where it's not snowing, when it's not snowing, blowing and drifting conditions. So certainly check the weather forecast later today. Check 511 for the latest road conditions so you're not actually driving into an area that you shouldn't be this afternoon. Otherwise, we eventually have a brief break by the end of the week. Have a great Tuesday and stay safe out there, everyone.